screws, to use to drill screws. So you say? We drill screws, drive screws. Category. So final category, category number 5, nail. More nails. Hey DIY family, welcome to our channel, Hat by Ebanks, and I'm Rory. Today we'll be talking about 5 must-have DIY tools whenever you're starting. So there's a lot of tools out there, and we're going to be looking on our 5 categories of DIY tools that's good when you're starting out. So over the years we have accumulated quite a bit of different tools. So you have your measuring tools, your cutting tools, and we're just going to break them down into 5 different categories to show you the different ones that we recommend that you should have when you're starting. We have gotten this question quite a bit of time, and I think it's very good for us to share this with you. So category number 1, measuring. It's very important whenever you're doing a DIY project to ensure that your measurements are pretty accurate, pretty spot on, because there have been times when we have measured and we think we have the correct measurements, and then we go and cut a board. It turns out that it's a little too short. So the saying is, measure twice, cut once. However, sometimes we measure once and cut twice, right? So tape measure. Everyone's supposed to be used to this. So this is a typical tape measure. So 16 feet long, and it has the different measurements on it that you can use and measure items, right? So this is a regular tape measure, and then we also have a little more advanced tape measure. So it has the typical or the traditional measuring rule. However, this tape measure also comes with a laser measurement. So you can literally use this, put it on a table, and you'll see the laser, and then it will measure the distance between this point and wherever you're pointing it at. So instead of you pulling out the tape measure, measuring from A to B, you can use this to measure the dimensions of a room easier with the laser measure. You can't use a laser to measure a board though, but again, this is a little more advanced. Our next category is level. So we need to ensure that our items are level. So it could be a board that we have cut that we're gonna place on a wall, anything that we're doing, we need to ensure that it's level and square. So this again is your typical level. You can ensure that something is level horizontally or vertical based on these different bubbles. We also have a miniature level. It's very small, but it is handy also, and it has magnets in it so you can stick on items. And it's very simple, so literally you just need to ensure that the bubble is in the center. So here we can see that our table is level. For more advanced projects, we have a level which is a laser level now, and it's pretty easy. So this one that we have, it has both horizontal and vertical lines to show you that the item is level. And how we do this is place it here, and then you can see the different lines. So one line horizontal, one line vertical, and once the items is level, you see that it has a little balance. And if you're gonna hang, for example, like a picture, you could literally place it beside the item and you can see the lines. So this is a different version of leveling. So you don't have the bubble lines, but you do have laser lines where you see the horizontal and the vertical intersect, and then you place the items within those lines. And if it's not level, you can see it's blinking. So to get the item level, it should stop blinking like that. Category 3, screwing or drilling tools. So there's no project, or there's hardly any project that we start that we don't have a screw in it. And again, we have the start point or the flat point. So because we're DIYs, it doesn't mean you have to go to power tools, but you can also have your manual screwing devices, which is very tiresome. It's much more difficult, takes longer. But if the power tools fail, you can always go to the manual. Our first DIY power tool was a drill. Still have the drill. It's a Black & Decker drill. However, the batteries have been deteriorated, but it has some sentimental value to us. And we have 3 different types of drills here. It doesn't mean that you have to buy 3 different drills. I think the most versatile drill is this drill, which is a driver drill, and it allows you to adjust the different speeds that you want, and you can also fit different types of bits in it. So I'm going to show you some bits shortly. But this is a hammer drill, and this is what we use to drill walls with like concrete bits. So this is a very powerful drill, and it is also a wired drill. Not to say that cordless drills aren't powerful, because we do have these drills. So again, this is a Works driver drill, and the good thing with the Works brand, which we appreciate, is that the same battery can be used in different power tools. This one is an impact drill, which is more powerful, more torque, and it will get screws in way easier, way smoother. So if we have drills, then we definitely need bits, and again, we do have a lot of different types of bits, but these are like the start point and the flat point bits for us to screw in items. This is an example of one, and it also has an extension, and it's magnetized. It's very handy when the bits are magnetized because it can pick up your screws easily. So again, that's something that you should look out for. It's easier when you're screwing in an item. If it's not magnetized, you'll see that the screw will fall out easy. We also have metal bits, concrete bits. Whenever I buy concrete bits, or I get concrete bits, so a hack that I identify is whenever I go to a hardware store, instead of buying a bit by itself, you can literally buy a box of concrete screws, or you can buy over 20 concrete screws, and some of the hardware store, they'll throw in the bit for free. So for example, when I'm buying concrete screws, I just buy the box and I get the bit for free. And the cost for the bit is maybe the half of the cost for the box. So it works out. We also have some countersink bits, which is a little more advanced, but it gives you a cleaner look. And that's it for bits. Category 4, saws. So a good old faithful hand saw with our blades, and you can get this at any hardware store. Very good tool to start out with. Helps you to build some muscles too, but it's, I would say, good old faithful. Then we have some power tools here, and you have the circular saw, which is one of my favorite saw, and this is a Stanley brand. It is a corded saw, but it's, to me, it's very good. It cuts, you can cut straight lines with it. It also has a guide that you can use, and it is very powerful. It goes through pretty much any type of lumber. So I like to use this. Sasha is pretty afraid of it. I don't know if it's a sound, but I prefer to use this. Then a little more versatility is the angle grinder, which you can use, and it has a handle for you to also guide. And it is, I like to use this also because, again, it is versatile. You can make angles with it versus the circular saw. It's to cut straight lines. Then we also have the Works brand, which provided us with a multi-tool. This is a 2-in-1, and it is a jigsaw and also a reciprocating saw. The good thing with the Works brand, which we like, is that it allows us to use the same battery as we showed you before. So remember, we have our drill, same battery, and it works in this device. And there are other devices that we have. where the same battery works in it also. So these are some of our handheld, easy to use tools when we're cutting items. But we also have some more advanced tools like the miter saw and the table saw for more larger size projects. I wouldn't necessarily recommend those for DIY starters. Maybe the miter saw, because it can cut straight angles easily, cut the lumber very simple, and then you can also cut angles like 45-degree angles when you're doing different types of DIY projects. But to start, you can start with maybe the jigsaw, and in this case we have a jigsaw and a reciprocating saw, which is a 2-in-1, and I think this is a very good deal because you get 2 saws for the price of 1. Or you can go with your traditional handsaw, lots of elbow work, so I would say sweat equity for real. If you don't want to invest in any power tools, there are some hardware stores that you can go to where when you buy the lumber you can actually pay for cuts. So for example, if you know the dimensions, and we have done this a lot, even we still do this even when we have the power tools, because at times it saves you time and energy, and it is, I would say, relatively inexpensive to pay for the cut. So if you buy a lumber and you know the dimensions, you can pay for 3 cuts, 5 cuts, and they can cut the lumber for you, and then you can transport it. If you don't have a big vehicle also, let's say you buy a 12 feet long lumber and you need to carry that in your car, you can pay at the lumber store for them to cut it in half, and it comes down to 6 feet. That's easier to transport. Our final category, category number 5, nailers, or our favorite hammer. So we can hammer things, and the hammer is very helpful. So in our projects we don't use a lot of nails. However, when we're demoing or breaking up things, we do use the hammer, and the hammer is again a very versatile tool because you can use it to drive in nail, remove nails, break up boards, separate items, and it is light, easy to use, easy to handle. Everyone should be able to manage this tool. We also would recommend a nail gun or a brad nailer, which is, if you're gonna, it's very helpful to have the brad nailer when we're doing woodwork related projects. So if we're joining 2 boards together, it's much easier than to use screws to drill a hole, and it also gives you a cleaner finish. So the brad nailer has a very narrow head nail where it is more of a finishing nail, and you would not see this being revealed. So for example, cabinetry work, you would use the brad nailer there. We have rented the brad nailer in the past, or the nail gun, and again it is very helpful. It speeds up projects, and what we have done is we have ordered a brad nailer for ourselves, which it is a 2-in-1 again. So it does brad nail and crown nails like a nail gun and a staple gun, and it is also in the Works brand, so we can use the same battery. So we went through the top 5 categories, so now we're narrowing it down to top 5 tools, and this is what we would recommend to any DIY that's starting up. So definitely you need a drill, and I would recommend the driver drill because it's more flexible. You can use your drill bit, which is to drill a hole in a wall, or you can also use screws to drill screws, drill screws. So what is it? To drill screws? Drive screws? So you can also use the drill to drive screws by simply changing the bit, and this has an adjustable in terms of how powerful you want it to screw. So you see, it goes faster. This also has a light in it, so it's very, very handy. The next tool I would say is you could get a jigsaw if you're going to cut lumber, cut materials. The jigsaw is very easy to manage. It's much more easier to manage than the circular saw or the table saw, which I would say is more advanced. And the good thing with this jigsaw, as I mentioned before, it also, you can use it as a reciprocating saw. So this is a 2-in-1, and it's the same battery as the drill, which offers you flexibility. So the blade goes in here and you can use it and cut items. Next item on the list is definitely a tape measure, and I would recommend again getting a tape measure that has the laser in it, because it allows you to measure long spaces. You can measure the dimension of a room easier. It can also calculate the square foot of a room by giving you the length and the width in this tape measure. Then the hammer, so you can have the manual hammer. However, if you can purchase a nail gun or a brad nailer or even a staple gun, I would definitely recommend it. So we don't have ours at the moment, but it is very helpful. We have used it on projects before. It is way faster than even using screws or using your manual hammer to nail in the items, and it gives you a cleaner finish. And then Mr. Level, definitely very handy tool if you want your items to be straight and level at the end. So for example, you're gonna hang something on the wall and you need to have a level, and this is a 2 feet level or 24 inches wide level. It's small enough, but it's still versatile. You do have longer levels, but those I would say are for more advanced use. So you don't need anything bigger than a 2 feet level. You can also install an app on your phone if you need to level items. We have some apps on our phone that we use for leveling items. So this rounds out our top 5 recommended tools based on the different categories. So we have gone through the different tools, and remember, you don't have to purchase some of these tools. There are companies in Jamaica that you can rent the tools. So for example, if you want to use a more advanced tool and you don't want to invest in purchasing the tool, you can rent the tool instead for that project. But these tools, very helpful, very useful. It will assist you throughout all your different projects. And what I also recommend is that if you're gonna start buying tools with a brand, especially cordless tool, battery operated tool, ensure that the batteries can be used throughout the entire tool set. So again, we have one battery in our drill, same battery is used in our saw, the same battery will be used in our nail gun. So all the different items can utilize the same battery, which makes it easier when you're purchasing because you can buy the tools without battery. Hope you enjoyed our list, and definitely go ahead and start making that purchase or investment in getting your first DIY tool. You can definitely do it. You just have to start. So I know you have liked already, so definitely remember to share and subscribe to our channel, share it with everyone, and start the DIY journey together. See you soon.